Okay, Mudra sir, let's start.
Okay, sure. Good evening, everyone who are presented here in this webinar, in this very warm evening. Once again, I'd like to wish you a very good evening. Actually, since its establishment, EDIN is trying to do something new and in the field of education. त्यही क्रममा चाहिँ एडिनले विभिन्न कार्यक्रमहरू विगतमा गर्दै आएकोमा अहिले यो इन्टरनेसनल वेबिनार एउटा आवश्यकता महसुस गरेर while sitting with principals of various schools and others यो कोलाबोरेसनको बारेमा यो स्कुल सक्सेसको बारेमा अनि यो कसरी टुगेदरनेस ल्याएर लिड गर्ने भन्ने विषयमा एउटा वर्कसप राखौँ न त भन्ने कुरा आइसके पछाडि हामी सबैजनाले एउटा टेन्टेटिभली अब इन्टरनेसनल लेभलका अलिकति त्यस्तो खालको एक्सपर्टलाई इन्भाइट गरौँ अनि स्टार्ट गरौँ भन्ने हिसाबले चाहिँ यो प्रोग्राम डिजाइन गरेका छौँ। यो प्रोग्राममा यहाँहरू सबैलाई स्वागत गर्दै आई वुड लाइक टु वेलकम यु अल। एक्चुअली वी हेभ टु इन्टरनेसनल गेस्ट टुडे हियर, Bernard Poshert from Austria and Randir Chanuka Pereira from Sri Lanka. So we're going to have some fantastic session with them. अब हाम्रो क्वेसन एन्सर राउन्ड पनि छ अनि त्यस पछाडि गएर हामीले अन्य यो थोरै थोरै अन्तर्क्रियात्मक टाइपको पनि गर्न खोजिराखेका छौँ र हामी अब धेरै ढिलो गर्दैनौँ। So without doing any delay, I would like to call Mr. Pushkar Raj Nepal for welcome speech and for the keynote. Actually, why we are being together, that means he will emphasize on the importance of this program. Pushkar sir, now it's your turn. Pushkar sir.
Thank you so much. Namaste. Thank you for letting me be here and for the warm introduction. If it is okay, I will mute, as I'm also the co-host or the host of the room, I will mute people who have not done so themselves, that we don't have any disturbances. So maybe if you can mute yourself, or if you allow me and other co-hosts to mute the others, that we don't have interruptions. We've heard that I'm an international person, so I'm from Austria, Europe, and I have had the honor to be in Nepal twice before. At the same time, when we have people here in Austria who come from other countries, they have some kind of a positive flavor, because we hope that they bring in some kind of new and helpful information. At the same time, only because people come from outside, that's not a guarantee, right? If that this really will be helpful and contributive, but I'm trying to do my best here. So I will share my...
Excuse me, Bernard. So yes. This is the time for Pushkar Raj Nepal for welcome note and having some keynote before presenting. So we would like to request Pushkar Raj Nepal sir to have his saying, sir, and then we will go for the presentation.
I'm sorry.
Can I start, sir?
Yes, Pushkar sir. Video on garnu hola sir, hai?
Thank you, sir. Namaste and good evening. It's me, Pushkar Nepal from Gadis Himal School. Today, we all are here to make a digital discussion on the topic of collaboration and strategic management for school success. It's my great honor and privilege to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed guest, Mr. Bernhard Poshert from Austria and Mr. Randi Chanuke from Sri Lanka, respected principals, vice principals, and coordinators from different schools. It's my privilege to stand before you today as we come together to celebrate the spirit of cooperation within this transformative body we proudly call our school. Our school is much more than just a building of classrooms and corridors. It's a vibrant community where dreams take roots, ideas flourish, and character is built. At the heart of this transformation lies the value of cooperation, a cornerstone of progress and growth. Cooperation teaches us that we are stronger together, whether it is students working as a team on a project, teachers collaborating to refine teaching methods, or parents and educators parenting to nurture young minds. Every act of collaboration creates a ripple effect of positive change. It's through cooperation that we can turn challenges into opportunities, disagreements into learning experiences, and goals into achievements. As we embark on this academic journey together, let us remember that our success as a school is not defined by individuals' achievements alone, but by our shared victories. It's in our ability to uplift one another, to listen, and to learn from each other that we truly thrive. It is the journey of learning, growth, and most importantly, working together to achieve extraordinary things. Respected personalities. Transforming school performance through strategic management is a holistic approach that applies business and organizational strategies to the education sector, aiming to enhance students' achievements, teachers' effectiveness, and overall institutional success. To get the changes and excellence through strategic management in our school, at least we should properly define the mission and vision of our organization. Strategic planning and goal setting is must. Smart goals, action plans, SWOT analysis as well, capacity building, professional development, resource optimization, fostering innovation, collaborative leadership, continuous monitoring and evaluation, and also building a sustainable culture. Once again, we are truly delighted to have Mr. Poslet and Pereira with us today. Your presence is a testament to the importance of this digital dialogue and fills us with pride and excitement. As a renowned expert in education field and a leader in international consultant, your contributions have inspired many and we eagerly look forward to your insights. We are confident that your presentation and perspectives will not only enlighten us, but also inspire us to aim higher and achieve more in our own endeavor. Finally, we would like to thank Mr. Posset and Mr. Ferreira for accepting our invitation and being here with us today. We are eagerly waiting to hear you and learn from your past experiences. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pushkar sir, for your wonderful saying and the guidelines for the program and the keynotes. Now, without doing delay, I'd like to call the mentor of Erin. He is guiding in every aspect to us, Mr. Bernard Pochert, for his plenary. His topic for the day is cooperating in the transformative body we call school. So now, Bernard, you are going to have 50 minutes and the session is yours. Let's welcome Mr. Bernard Pochert for his session. Bernard.
Thank you so much, and sorry for the misunderstanding just before. Did you say 15 or 50?
50, 50.
Just to make sure. Thank you. So let me share my screen. And of course, we can share the slides afterwards if you want, that you can see them also. I think there are many things that we need to do right in our schools, and most of them we can see on in good books. And when we learn about management, it's about goal setting, it's about financials, it's about marketing, etc. But there is sometimes there are things missing, although everybody does everything perfectly. And it's a bit like in a body. So we could imagine that we are all one body together, and maybe each part is doing their job, but they're not cooperating. They're not working together. And this is a bit my question here in the next minute. So how can we cooperate together in a body? And of course, I call school this body. And my question is, this body, if a body is alive, it's still transforming. So that our bodies are getting older, but they're not only getting older, but they're transforming. We are kind of digesting things, we take in things, there are things going out, and we are new each day. And the danger is that we look at a skull as if it was static. And of course, it is not. It's a living body, it's a transformative body. So, this is the title of everything. And I will share a few introductory mentions, and then I will go through each part in detail. So, if we say our skull is a body, let's assume it has different organs, and each organ has their duty. And if the heart doesn't do its duty, and the lung tries to do the job of the heart, it will be problematic. So each organ has their own duty, of course, and still they depend upon each other. So the lung could not say to the heart, I'm more important, or the heart to the lung, I'm more important. They are different, but each of them is essential. And that's one of the important things that we recognize when we talk about cooperation, that we are different, we have different roles, different functions. At the same time, we're trying not to say one is more important than the other. And also, the body, if we look at the body, it's not only the question of the body within, but each of our bodies, we depend on air, we depend on water, we depend on food, so that we take in energy. And that's the same also for our schools, of course. So we are highly dependent of the intake of resources, of people, etc., that we get from our surroundings, so that we can do our job. So as we are saying, the school is maybe a body, maybe the whole ecosystem with your school in it, but with other stakeholders, other players, the parents, the children, the students, etc., and the universities, etc., the state, all of them are together. All of them are together one body. So we depend upon each other so that we can do our job as a school. And of course, what is the question? The question also is, what is our job? So if the job of a lung is to bring oxygen into the body, what is the job of your school for the whole? And at least for me, I would say more and more it is education, of course, yes. But I think it's not only education. I think it's also something like encouragement, right? So that we do not despair, maybe, in the face of crisis, that we keep up our spirits, that we not only educate our minds, but also our hearts, that we more and more learn how to cooperate in the bigger body that is society. So this is why I called it also encouragement, that we kind of find courage in this world that is quite changing. I've been asked to introduce the idea of dialectical thinking, and the dialectical thinking, as I learned it, can be distinguished into 4 different aspects, and we will go through them one by one. And one aspect is context. So we start on the left bottom. One is context, and the question of how are things in a whole. So just as I said, would one of the co-hosts please take over the job of muting people? Would this be possible? Thank you. So one question is, how are things belonging together? How are things part of a whole? Just as I used this metaphor of a body, this is the question that we use when we talk about context in dialectical thinking. Another aspect is processes. So just like you said, a school is not a static thing, but it's a moving thing. When we talk about, I don't know, the weather, or if we talk about love or courage, we use nouns for this, for love, for courage, for a school. But if we think about love, courage, a school, it's just a photograph of a static, it looks static, but it's moving. The third aspect is relations. So we could think of ourselves as being isolated, and at least we in the West, we highly think that we as individuals are independent of others. And of course we are not. And this is one of the things that I really found very beautiful when I had the chance and the honor to work with you together, that apparently for you here, it is much more natural not to think about yourself as an isolated phenomenon, but as being in connection with others. And the fourth aspect of dialectical thinking is transformation. And you see the butterfly here in the center of the picture. And of course, we have the caterpillar, and the caterpillar becomes a butterfly. So this is a transformation, but the essence of the caterpillar and the essence of the butterfly is the same. So it is still the same being, but it has been transformed. And we can look at organizations, but also you can look at individuals, how they are transforming again and again. So when you look at your own children, when you look at the students in your school, sometimes you can see in hindsight, oh, in the last 1 to 3 years, something transformed. Now it is a more mature person, for example. And we can see this also with ourselves. So this is the fourth aspect of dialectical thinking that we will look at. And there's another element that I want to bring in, the idea of elements. So, and of course, there are different concepts of different elements, and the 4 elements that I want to bring in here are from my collection of the New Good Life elements. And these 4 is metal, tree, stone, and fire. And I will share later what I mean by these 4 elements and how they contribute to this body we call school. So now we go deeper. There is one, I just said before, each organ has its own duty and they depend upon each other. So far so good, but there are some problems. So one of the problems is being separate. So you can see in the picture, these are only isolated things here. They're not really connected. So one of the problems is that each organ is more or less doing their own job. But the other thing is, how do we work together? And if a system doesn't talk to each other, to each other organs, but also outside, of course we have problems. So one question is, how can we connect? But connecting could mean that we just sit together and that we talk. And very often that's enough. But maybe you have also made the experience that person A talks and person B talks and person C is talking, but they do not listen. So how can we listen to each other and really try to understand what the other part is saying? And I also made the experience that very often we do not ask enough questions. So how can we really ask the questions that are really relevant for us so that we can cooperate? Very often the heart does not understand what the lung is doing and vice versa. So how can we ask each other questions? How can we listen? How can we also share what the problems are that we are having and share also our needs, what we really need from each other? And that's sometimes difficult, that we really share not what you should do, but rather what I need. And sometimes we think that's the same, but it's not. So what is really my need, maybe as a person, but also as a function? How can we share what we need? And there is an element here on the slide that where you see consent-based decisions. Is it possible? Do you all hear me? And is just one person having a problem? Or does everybody have a problem with my tone? Is it okay?
It's okay. It's okay. You can carry on.
Thank you. So when I say consent-based decisions, that's a concept from sociocracy. And sociocracy is a fascinating concept, how to steer a body, how to steer an organization together without getting stuck. So now here in the call, we have 66 people, and let's assume we would all be directors of one school. This would be quite a mess, right? But still, in a huge body with 66 people, it would be possible within 1-2 hours to come up with a decision that nobody objects to. And that's the idea of consent-based decisions. It's not that everybody's happy, but rather that we again and again ask, do you have objections that are really serious, that are where you see a danger for the whole? So let's assume I would be driving with you in a car, and I had the honor and the pleasure to drive with you through Kathmandu, which was a wonderful experience for a Western person. And let's assume, even if I'm not driving, I would see a big truck coming from one side with very high speed. And let's say I assume that my driver beside me does not see this truck. Would the driver rather want me to be silent, or would the driver rather want me to speak up? And I assume the driver would want me to speak up and say, oh, be careful, there's a truck coming. Maybe you don't see it. And that's what we are doing when we are making consent-based decisions. So we are not asking, is everybody happy? But do you see a truck? Do you see a danger for the whole system? And so step by step, we come to consent-based decisions. So maybe you want to look it up. When you go for sociocracy, you can see the logic behind consent-based decisions. So it's in a good school, at least as far as I can see it, it's not only the leader making all the decisions alone, but rather to be in correspondence with others, hearing the needs, hearing objections, and then making good decisions. Another problem that we're having is what we call arrogance. So arrogance would mean that, for example, if I'm the leader, I would say, or if I'm the heart, or if I'm the brain, I would say, you all depend on me. I'm more important than you are. So you are something lower. And the lung could say, well, without me, you wouldn't get any air. I'm most important. And the liver could say it, and the kidneys and every part of our body could say, without me, you're having a big problem. And the eyes and everything. So, of course, we need all the organs. And how can we say and accept that we have different functions? So there are different functions between an owner and a principal, and a student and a teacher, and the person taking care of electricity and taking care about cleanliness. So everybody is central, and we have different duties. And I've seen this, at least in the West, maybe you have a better culture in Nepal, but at least in the West, I've seen that people look down on others because they think they would be more important. And of course, this hurts. So if you look down on me and give me the feeling that you are more important and I'm less important, I will have a grudge in me. At least many people have. So it's possible and relatively easy to accept that we have different functions, but it's really difficult to experience that you feel that you are a more important person, that you have more value as a person. And then there is the question of a civil war. So civil war is a hard term, of course, but let's assume that we are fighting against each other. Let's assume that the teachers fight against the principals fighting against the owners, and the owners are fighting with the parents. So everybody's fighting each other. And of course, this will not be possible. So how can we accept each other's rights that we have and see their duties and their rights? And how can we kind of accept that we are equal and different? So that's a bit my formula. So of course we are different, but of course we are equal. So how can we refrain from this impulse that again and again systems have, that they fight against each other internally? And there is the last one, which sounds maybe on the first spot not so easy to understand, but for me it's really important. Let's assume that I really want to help you. So let's assume I'm a teacher and I really want to help the students. And I can do this in a way that on first sight, I'm a wonderful teacher because I'm so helpful. But on the second side, you would see that I'm disempowering the student. I'm taking away their responsibility. I'm not letting them make their own experiences. And the same could happen. The same could happen if we do with leadership. So we could be a principal, and we could be a wonderful principal, and we take care of everything, and we support everybody, so that they do not need to make their own duties. So I'm kind of taking away their duties. And at the beginning, this sounds wonderful to have this kind of principle, but on second side and in the long view, we will see that we are disempowering others. So how can we clarify what are you able to do? What are you not able to do? What do you need that you can make your own duties? So that you own your own duties, that you own your own function. And again, I've seen people are really able to do wonderful things if we encourage them to do things, if we give them the possibility and the resources and the chance, and that we then stand one step behind them and that we are there in case they need something, of course. But we let them make their own experiences and their own choices also. So disempowering is also something that I've seen as one of the very big problems when we're talking about cooperation. So this was about internal cooperation, and now we come to the question of how is this school a part of the larger body, and so how can we also look at the questions of the problems that we might have with the bigger system. And as you see, I have the same 4 problems again here. So we could look at us being totally separated from the others, separate from other schools, other private schools, other official schools, separate from universities, separate from politics, separate from our neighbors. And of course, we are not. So we really are dependent upon each other. We need each other. And at least it is good strategy that we are able to understand what the others are thinking and what the others are feeling, even if we do not agree all the time. But it's really important to trying to look at the world from their perspective. So being not separated, but in connection, understanding and talking. And of course, the question of arrogance. So you could say, well, my school is bigger, or I have more students, I have the better teachers, whatever you might say. There's quite a danger that we feel internally this arrogance, and people will smell our arrogance from afar. So how can we avoid taking on this position of arrogance? The same is about war. So we could kind of fight others, and also we could disempower others. So we could. One of the questions, for example, in Europe we're having is, what is the job of parents? So is the job of parents just to make sure that the students show up at the right time and that they are paying their money? Is this all the job that the parents are doing? Or do they have more of a job? And in Europe, we have made the mistake of giving parents the impression, just hand over your children to us. We will take care of everything. We will educate them with content or with thinking, the knowledge, but also we will kind of educate them how to behave and how to speak and how to be friendly and how to be respectful and how to have values and everything. And we were kind of saying, you do not need to take care of these parents. We are doing this. And of course, this is a mistake. So school, as I see it, is only working if the parents realize that they're doing their own job as far as they can. Because, of course, we have then now situations that sometimes we see that students would need some kind of support that the parents just cannot give. So it could be how to tame what we call the digital elephant. So one of our big problems that we're having in Europe is the addictedness to smartphones, social media, online gaming. So this is a huge problem. It's a pandemic. And of course, we could say, well, you're the parents, you should teach the children how to handle that digital elephant, that they do not get seducted when they have free time. Of course, that would be my job as a parent, how I see my role as a parent. I would not expect you as a school to do this for me. But if we have parents who are just not able to do this, well, who's the job? So who is now responsible? And of course, I see us as schools as being as supportive as possible where others cannot do their job. But how can we make sure that everybody understands what their job is and what they need to do their jobs? So this question of smartphone addiction is one of the central problems we are having, and with all the different solutions that are working and not working. So that was the first part about the metaphor of having a body. Now I'm moving to going deeper to the questions of dialectics with these 4 aspects. So you may have heard the term of a holon. A holon is a term that was coined by Arthur Koestler and picked up by Ken Wilber and others. So a holon is a whole and a part. So I'm a person, I have a body, and I'm a whole. So I'm full, I'm complete. And I have parts within me, organs, but also mental parts. But I can see myself as being a part of bigger holons. So I'm part of a family. You're part of a school. And let's say a school is a holon, it has parts, but it's also part of bigger holons. So that's the idea of holons. It's like maybe you know about these Russian dolls, where you have one small doll and bigger dolls around each other. And that's the same with the question of a holon. So we are part of another system, but you see a whole that is part of other systems. So I made it plural. And of course, I am, as a person, I'm not only part of a family, but also part of other systems. So it's a bit more complicated, like this with this Russian dolls. So we are part of many different wholes, and they have an effect on. They have an effect on the system of school, and so we need to be aware of the effects and of the relations that all these bigger holons and the parts have together. So that's the question of context. Now I'm coming to the question of processes. At least Western language produces the illusion that things would be static, like I shared before, the terms of love, education, school, a relationship, even, ownership and value, all these wonderful terms that we know, they sound, because they are nouns, as if they would be static. And I'm trusting that you in Asia have a better intuition that everything is moving. But of course, this is not just a saying that everything is moving, but it's real. So it could be that something was true for me today and I made a promise. And next day, I come up to you and say, yesterday I made a promise, and I'm taking full responsibility for my promise. Thank you. I'm taking full responsibility for my promise, but I have changed. We need to talk again. And of course, this is not very, I'm not very happy if you come up to me and you break a promise, or at least you say that you want to discuss about the promise. But that's reality. So things are moving in my heart, in my consciousness. Things are moving as a school, and something that was true for you yesterday might no longer be true next day. Especially, for example, when we look at strategy. So I have seen, I'm working as a consultant here in Austria, and I've seen organizations who wrote down a strategy paper, 20 pages or 100 pages, and they celebrate it because they're really proud of their strategy. But it's no longer true even the next day. fully true. Of course, it's still valuable, but the world is moving, and we need to look at these strategy papers again and again and see, is it still correct? Is it still alive? Is it still in connection with the living world? And so how can we again and again see that things are moving? Now we come to relations, and as I said before, nothing is fully separated. Everything is somehow related. And so these relations are really important. There are people even who say, coming from system theory, they are saying that the relations between the different objects are more important than the objects themselves. And of course, our normal language and our normal way to act handles this differently. We're doing it differently. We are assuming that the objects, the persons, the units are the real decisive elements. But what I see more and more, how important it is to look at the different relations. What is the quality of each of these relations? And so what is your relation that you are having with parents? And is it different from the relation to the students? Yes, of course. Is your relation to students different if they have different age? I think so. Have you different relations to parents who have a good education than with parents who have not so good education and may not be able to support their children that well? I assume so. So the quality of each of these relations is quite different. Also the question of different teachers among themselves. Are they aliens? Are they colleagues, meaning they're supporting each other? Are they in competition? And what are we maybe doing to support some unhealthy competition between them? So we are responsible not just to put people on the right places with the right competences so that they can do their jobs, but I think we are also responsible to enable good relations between the different elements, even if these relations are not with us, but among each other. So we are, as I see it, responsible for the whole net, for the weaving of relations between the different elements. And the last aspect of dialectical thinking is the question of transformation. As I said before, the idea of the caterpillar and the butterfly, of course, that's the metaphor we are using again and again. But as I said before, the caterpillar and the butterfly share the same essence while they're changing their form. And at least here in Europe again, we are having huge problems with demography, with resources, with prices, etc., etc. So we are having quite some problems. And many organizations, as I see it, will need to change their form to handle these changes that are happening in the outside. So they need to change their form. And the challenge is, how can they keep their essence while changing their form? So, for example, some organizations might need to let go of things that are happening in presence. They will need to shift sometimes to more digital means. And how can we do this without losing our essence? For example, some organizations say relationships, good relationships between people, this is our essence. And if we're going digital, then we lose this human aspect of relationships. I would say that's not the case, but it's dangerous. So if we're not careful, we kind of throw out the essence of our organization, and then we maybe have a new body that is maybe working, but we have lost our soul, we have lost our essence. So how can again and again we make sure that we keep our essence? And I think that's pretty much the same with education and students. So how can we support students that they look for their essence, who they really are, and how can we support that they become who they really are while putting things, what I call, into the museum? So there are habits that we had 10 years ago, which are now in the museum. We can look at it, we may be proud of these habits, we may be sad that we did it, but it's no longer part of our system at the moment. It's the same for organisms. So, and I'm coming now to the third part, which is about elements. And what I call elements here are from 9 elements. And I will, if you're interested, you can see it on the New Good Life website. I'm using only 4 elements, and I will try to clarify why I picked these. First thing is, yes, thank you, Hikmat. What we had, Hikmat is writing, a museum for our schools, what we had and what we don't need, but what we can take as a reference. So maybe you did something in our school before, which was maybe good at the time you were doing it, but now the times have changed and we need to adapt, but still it is maybe a proud part of our history. What you see here, maybe you also have this music these electrical devices where you can play music and you can calibrate the tone, and you have more bass and more other elements so that the sound, you can adjust the sound. And it's the same here. Let's say we use the element of metal. We can have more metal or less metal depending on what you need. So it's not about whether metal is good or not, it's the question of how much we need of each of these elements. And that's the metaphor I'm trying to have here. So the message of metal, as I use it here, is that metal is strong, it is powerful, it is courageous, and that's a good thing, right? And could we have too much metal? I think so, but you could also have not enough metal. So that's the idea of enough, but not too much and not too little. So we need strength so that we can face facts, avoid denial, that we are courageous in the face of crisis and problems, but also maybe if you have opponents or something where you need to fight. But you could have a healthy amount of metal, so being strong, courage, clarity, directness, maybe what people call honor, but maybe you have too much of it. So at least here in Europe, we have kind of lost our healthy connection to this metal, and sometimes have people not enough of it or too much. So they have some kind of brutality, they're dominating others. So that's, yeah, that there is some kind of overconfidence and being stubborn. So like, I am a hero, or I'm a fighter, but they are getting blind in their fight. They're not just clear, they do not have clarity and are direct, but they're really harsh. They're insulting people. And also, they think they're acting out of honor, but they're using honor to do things that are really stupid and damaging because they act out of the fear to lose their face, which is understandable. But we need other instruments to handle this. So as I said, metal is wonderful and is really necessary, but we can have not enough or too much. And for cooperation, this also means I tell you what I need, I tell you what I see, what I observe. I ask you to tell me what you see and what you need, and then we have a clear exchange, while respecting our differences and also our different functions. But we need this quality of metal. The second element that I want to introduce here is the element of a tree. And a tree is never alone. So a tree is also a holon. It's part of a whole ecosystem. If there's just one tree without soil, without air, the tree is dead within a short time. So the tree says, the message of the tree is, we are a part. We're always a part. And I think this is really necessary, that we do not have single individual heroes in our schools, regardless in which function. Even a principal, even an owner is a tree. So they are part of an ecosystem. And how can we support others that you say, I'm belonging to this field, and I'm an individual at the same time. So I am connected and different. So I'm related and differentiated. And we can have a healthy dose of three of this blue energy here. So community, belonging, loyalty, tradition, morals, reliable structures, responsibility. But of course, there's also a too much. So we could suppress the individuality of people. We could ask people to adhere to old forms in a dogmatic way and trying to breaking their will. We could have not only reliable structures, but really tightness, or we could have injustices enmeshed into the structures. And also this kind of responsibility is great, but as I said before, we can make sacrifices and take everything to ourselves that we disempower the system. While we think we are helping it, but at least in our systems, we needed to learn how to let others do their job then. The third element I'm introducing is what I call stone. And the stone is where the message of the stone says, how can we become active? So how can we do something with the material that is lying around? So how can you do something with stones? And it's really about being active and not just a nice boy or a nice girl. So it's about taking things oneself and saying, okay, this is my job, I'm doing it. I'm thinking by myself. I'm not just doing what you ask me to do, I'm thinking myself. My question is, how can we create something that is stable and robust? So it's good to be a good teacher, but it's even better if I teach students that they can teach themselves, right? So it's not about how can I be in the middle of everything? So how can I support others? Having a stable system of learning, a stable flow of learning that is working independently of me. So there is a enough stone element and there is a too much. So we can be very busy, we can be very linear, very perfectionist. We can only define ourselves by work. So while pride in our work is good, we have seen that people, for example, thought they were sacrificing themselves for the children of their school, but their own children at home, they did not feel that this person really had a heart for children, which is very sad, I would say. So how can we see that we have also pride in our achievements while having not too much of this active energy, I think. The last element that I want to bring in here is the element of fire. And I'm using fire here as a metaphor for burning away what is irrational, burning away what is maybe stupid. So it burns away what is not essential. And fire is quite powerful. Maybe you've seen it that your students were maybe diligent, good students for a long time, but then they started thinking by themselves. Their mind opened up, their mind got fire. So they were then really more independent thinkers themselves. And this is the idea of fire. So how can people think for themselves and become free? But as I said before, there is a too much. There is also probably a too much of individualism, a denial of wholeness. And also this question of effectiveness is wonderful, but if everything is just about being effective and having a value just because it makes money or because we can put it into numbers, probably that's not healthy. So how can we have a balance here as well? So this would be the page where you, and I will share this link also later then in the chat. So thank you very much for listening. I hope I did not go over time. Do we have time for questions?
Satyarup, if you have any questions, you can ask Bernard. He is ready to answer your queries. You have 3 minutes. You can raise your hands if you want to ask some questions.
Maybe you want to write the questions in the chat, maybe if this is easier.
Yeah, that is also good idea.
I'm seeing, oh yes, there is one question.
Okay.
Maybe you want to speak?
Yes, Yukta sir. Yes, Yukta sir, please. If you have any question, then you can ask Yukta sir.
मैले unmute गरेको छु.
Okay, sir.
You can ask.
Thank you, Pastor, for your wonderful sharing here. During your presentation, okay, you were wonderfully connecting four metaphors with the human body, and also you were talking about few big problems that European, schools or teachers were facing, and I would like to especially highlight these two big mistakes that you said you were making in Europe. And one was making commitment to the parents that the school and the teachers do everything for the children. One. And another you were raising was just like social media and online gaming. These were two big issues that you said the European parents were facing these days. Are there any other issues that the school teachers and parents are facing beside these two, and how you have been dealing with these issues there in Europe? This is my question. Are the more big issues you are facing there in Europe, and what kind of strategies, what kind of way outs are you, planning to cope up with those problems? This is my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Do you want me to answer directly, or should we collect the questions?
Maybe you can answer it right now. We can take 2 or 3 questions.
Yeah.
So remaining questions, the other participants, they can write in the chat box so that we can address them later on.
Okay. So I'm trying to answer as far as time allows. So as I mentioned, one challenge is how can we send the message to the parents, you're still part of the game, you're needed, you're an essential part of this togetherness. So it's not just about handing over the student and we will take care of the rest. That's not how it works. So you're still part of the support system. You need to continually support your child, that education, and that our job is working. And we are doing our job. We are not trying to let you do our job. We are not demanding that you are learning at home for hours with your children. This is our job. But what is your job then? So we need to clarify this in dialogue and also learn from the mistakes here. Another problem that we are having is that it's working relatively well with parents who have a good education. So their students are seeing, oh, the parents are reading the newspaper, the parents are reading books, they have a qualified exchange on the table while we are eating. So this is kind of leveling up the students. But we also have parents who do not have good education and who maybe are, I don't know, only watching TV or only themselves using social media. They're not eating healthy food. They have not a high reflective power. And then we face the problem. On the one hand, the parents cannot really support their students, their children. But also, if we do our job well, then the students will go higher in their mind capacity than their parents. And it's dangerous that the students look down on their parents. They're kind of getting arrogant. And that's really, of course, a problem. So how can we instill the question and the aspect of respect for parents while the parents are maybe so different? And of course, I would never talk to a student and say that you have a higher something than your parents, but they're feeling it themselves. So there's the danger that they lose respect for them, and that's one of the aspects we really need to take care in our education. Especially, we have, let's say, around 10 to 15% of the population that is not coming from Austria in Austria. And for the parents, it's higher. So I assume we have around 25% parents coming not from Austria, not speaking German well, and not having such a good education, many of them. So that's quite a challenge. And we need to see parents on the one hand as being supportive, but also as a client, so that we support parents to kind of educate themselves, that they also keep pace with the development of their children. Not so much about content, but about worldview. So that's my short answer. Sorry for the length. Thank you for the question.
There is one question in message by Uday Malik sir. If a school is a body, then as which part is dealt with students, teachers, principals, parents, and society?
I hope that I understand the question correctly. So at least in Austria, Europe, we made first charts about communication lines, who is talking to whom, who is giving whom an order. So this was a very clear chart. And of course, we need these charts to make sure if we need hard decisions, we need to make clear who is making these decisions. But the world is not, this is not a good picture for the world and for communication, how it really works. It really works more like noodles, like spaghetti. So everything is connected with everything. And so I assume that, let's say, there are parents in school, in the building, and there is a person cleaning the room. And if the person cleaning the room is disrespectful to parents, we have a problem. So everybody is responsible for the whole. And I think that's important that we see this, but at the same time, it's clear that we make clear what is the responsibility of whom. And I assume that you will have in the leadership not only the responsibility to kind of coordinate the body within, but also to coordinate the communication with the outside world. We have, for example, the order that no teachers talk to a newspaper without having the legitimacy or the kind of okay of the principal to do this. So only the principal is allowed to talk to newspaper, for example. So that's one of the small rules that we have. I hope that I did not fully misunderstand the question.
Thank you, Bernard. I think the participants, they are clear about the topic and your explanation. So they don't have much more questions. So thank you very much. At last, we will have some conclusion words also about the program. Now, without doing any delay, Mr. Pereira is ready there. So I'd like to invite Randhir Chanuka Pereira from Sri Lanka.
Sir, excuse Geeta ma'am is raising her hand. She wants to ask something.
Okay, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, you can speak.
So, thank you very much. In order to bring that transformation,
I can barely hear you. Could you speak a lot louder, please?
okay, since I'm in the mobile, that's why I think. In order to bring the transformation, we do lots of programs, planning with the teachers, parents, schools, and the students. We do lots of planning, programming, and new ideas and everything. And every time what we have noticed, okay, with the parents, with other schools and teachers, the whole planning programming in order to bring the transformation, it works. But with the students, as soon as the new batch of students comes to us, it does not work. They are so different. And then again, we need the new programming, new planning, everything new. Means that we do not have with the students like the constant programming. It changes every year. For me, I have to change every year different program, bring different program. for the students. Of course, with the parents, teachers, and other schools, it works. So that's my problem. So every year, how to bring different planning program with the schools.
The impression that it was not just a question, but really enlargement of what I was trying to say. Is this correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The experience I'm making is leaders sometimes try to either say, let's keep everything stable, so we are not changing, or they're trying to revolutionize, so change everything. And of course, that's not healthy for the whole system. So how can we find what I call essence? What we say, this is really essential, this is important, and we will stick to these values, these principles, etc., again and again. But the form will morph; it will change step by step. And I think this is what I heard from you. I'm sorry for misunderstanding, maybe. Thank you.
Geeta ma'am, are you clear about that, or you want to ask more?
Sir, यसमा चाहिँ म्यामको कुरालाई नै I want to elaborate something more for Bernard. Actually, it's not like the question, but the transformative process that we are talking about, it really works for parents and teachers. But for the students, every year you get new student in the new class, and every time you need to design a new transformative process. That is a real challenge for the school leaders. So that's how to deal with the new students with those all digital accessories and all those things. It's really difficult for us. So is there anything, any idea out of this new good life that we can work so that we can deal with the students with ease every year? This is the query as well as suggestion from our leader.
And is it challenging to handle new students because each student is an individual person, so each student is different? Or is it challenging because each cohort is different because society is changing again and again?
It's both, because we also have to respect the individual perspective of a student and also the societal perspective as well. And that's why it has become more complex since we are talking about education is not being a group work, it is individual work, learning is individual. That's why how this individualistic phenomenon works with the collaborative phenomenon. This is also the another challenge. So she's talking about this.
I think the madam was raising her hand, please.
They are changing so fast, the students. The parents and teachers are okay, but the students, the changes are so extreme these days that every year we need to give them the different ideas, different method, different things. So they are changing, the students are changing. We are saying transformation. Of course, the transformation is so rapid. Like one batch of students in class 10 and second time new batch, when they come, their brain is very different. Their critical thinking is different, their innovation is different. So what we design for them, it does not work next year. And we have to again make the new strategy. I'm sorry for taking time, but
Sorry for not giving a good, maybe a good answer. What we realized is that the idea of one teacher speaking to the whole class all the time is no longer working. So it's maybe working for part of a session, but in between, we need to offer different material where students choose, and depending on their personality, depending on their, I don't know, type, so more visual, more auditive, more kinesthetic, but also depending on their cognitive capacity, so that they choose different material to continue their learning. And also, of course, we needed to shift, and this is hard work, of course, in schools, to hand over the responsibility for learning to the student. So of course I stay responsible. I'm not giving it up, but the idea is to say, you know, this is what we need to learn this year. This is the whole material. At the end of the year, you will all be able to handle this material. But how you get there, I'm just a coach. I'm supporting you, but it's your job to get there. So how can, and this of course are individual path. And I think you mentioned digital devices, and we need to also to support students to support themselves, supporting each other. Without that, our teachers are not having any chance to bring the majority of students to the goal they need to get to. So we need to enable to tap into all the resources we are having digital, but also students themselves amongst each other. Thank you. I think it's time to move, right?
Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Gita ma'am. Thank you, Hikmat sir. Now we are moving forward, as we have one more presentation left. So that will be by Mr. Randhir Chanuka Pereira from Sri Lanka. He is waiting here. His topic for the day is transforming school performance through strategic management, the principle as a key drive of change and excellence. So actually this is for us, this is for the education leaders who are working here, especially in South Asia. He is working on that. So let's welcome Mr. Pereira for his presentation. Mr. Pereira, please. Now you turn for 50 minutes.
Very good evening. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please carry on.
Yeah. Very good evening to everyone. Honored guests, the official coordinator of the program, Mr. Modaraj Pandey, and the respected principals. As we gathered here today in the company of such distinguished education leaders, I'll be honored to share my thoughts with you with the topic of strategic management and how strategic management can be made use of in transforming schools' performance, and the role of the principal as the contributor to administer the school and generate the outcome from the application of strategic management. Let me introduce myself first. Basically, I am from a business background. Can you see my presentation?
Yeah, we can see your presentation, but the
Hello?
voice is... Yes,
Hello?
yes. Yes, we can see.
Hello?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So basically, I am from the business background. So the challenge I was given today was how strategic management can be applied to transform the performance of schools in Nepal. So in my exercise, I am trying to discuss and give an insight of how strategic management principles can be applied to improve strategic performance of schools in Nepal. So I made my fullest effort to make it much more concise, because strategic management is a broad subject, but conceptually there are many important elements, concepts, which are very, very essential to gain fundamental understanding the ethics related to strategic transformation of business. So here in this case, I have made an attempt those in one single presentation, and also how these strategic management principles can be applied to explain how these strategic management principles can be applied to enhance the performance in schools in Nepal. So let me start my presentation. as it is seen in the picture, so the
I think we lost connection to him. Is this correct?
I think we lost connection. I'll try to connect him.
रणधीर जोइन हुँदै गर्दाखेरि
sorry, yeah, sorry for the interruption. Yes, sorry for the interruption. Actually, I have changed my location as well because of the signal problem.
Okay, carry on, please.
Let me share my presentation. Can you enable screen sharing for me myself?
Just did so. Sorry. Yes.
It is enabled.
Okay, thank you.
We can see the slide. Yes.
Okay, let me start. Right, thank you. So as it is seen in the picture, strategic management is a coordinated and also synchronized and well aligned and a harmonic function, because in order to generate prospective and targeted business results, all the elements which are contributing to this operation must work together and must coordinate and must function together, each together to generate target business results. So it is as it is seen in the picture, so all these elements work together on a common objective, common purpose, that is to generate the strategic business results, outcomes of of any organization. That is the process. So though the external environment is dynamic, even though the sometimes internal environment is also dynamic, sometimes agile organizations are there. So however, unimaginable business outcomes are generated by application of strategic management. How to believe true? So are not you interesting to know the science of operating strategic business? Because knowing how this strategic the science of how business organizations generate strategic outcomes in the line of business world, knowing about it and we ourselves playing in our business generate prospective business results is wonderful, is interesting subject area deal with.
It seems we lost him again, right?
Yes, I think there is issue of internet in Sri Lanka. Last time also, when we were doing, we have the same problem. Mm, So Manoj sir, you are here. So if you have any question, you can ask.
To whom, sir?
You said you have some question to ask to Bernard, right? So in this time you can ask question.
भनेको थियो भने मैले चुप
Yeah, yeah. Hello. Yeah.
Manoj, good to see you.
Yeah, Bernard. Namaste. This is Manoj. Yeah, I am poor in technology, so yeah, my mobile is full of video and photos like this, so I could not open Zoom. Yeah, we were talking about, we were listening about the children's what to say, stone behavior, like, you know. So I put in YouTube one question: children don't want to hear teachers in school and don't want to follow the guidelines to their parents at home. There will be conflicts with each other. So this goes day and day regularly, but there will be just compassion with the parents. They have patience and they can't ignore, but they ignore. Yeah. And how can it be simplified to handle our kids in our socio-cultural environment?
Okay, Manoj sir, thank you
Whether
very
they
much
are
for your
influenced by
question.
environment and so on.
Manoj sir, thank you very much for your question. Will you please write down your question in the chat box so that we can address it later on? We have Randir now. Randir, please stop your screen, your video, and try to share your screen once so that we will not get interrupted again. Randir.
Hello.
Yes, Randir, please share your screen and stop your video. Yes. Now will you please share your screen?
Hello. Yeah. Can you see the screen?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Now please change on the
Hello.
slides. Yes, Randir, we can hear you. We can see your screen. Now let's start. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. I'll make it. Yeah. So I have also visited some of the schools in Nepal. St. George International School is one of them. Einstein School is one of them. I have participated in this competition. I have seen good experience of background schools in Nepal in last year. So the presentation line, initially we discovered what is systemic management and the application of strategic management in this, and then application strategic development education institutions and the vision leadership the principle and
Would it be okay if I tried to answer the question, or should we wait for?
Yeah, actually, Randir is having signal problem over there. So I'd like to request Bernard to answer Manoj sir, and who wants to ask a question with Bernard? Let's have some discussion with him, and we'll share all the slides of Pereira to you all. I think because of signal problem, it's not being clear. So he's facing internet problem over there, I think so. Please, Bernard, you proceed on with the answer of Manoj sir, and we'll get some more questions from the participants to you.
Thank you. I tried to put something in the chat. I hope you can see it. So thank you, Manoj, for bringing up this question, and good to hear you again. The idea of metal and tree is exactly what I'm trying to offer here, and we can see this in our families, and we can see this in our systems. On the one hand, we have systems that have too much metal and tree, so they're extinguishing their individuality. But parents and students are fleeing these systems, most of them, because they, of course, see that this is something of the past, and it's no longer something how we want to live together. So it's we need this freedom, we need dialogue, we need this kind of respect of individuality, which is a good thing. But I've seen that systems then only try to talk about empathy and being caring and being authentic without setting boundaries and without making clear what the rules of a system are. So this is one of my jobs again and again in schools, to clarify how does a healthy metal look like in your school? How do you enforce some kind of clarity about the rules of the system that we're having here? And punishment in the old style is, of course, not healthy. So I'm not talking about punishing people. I'm talking about kind of clarifying what are the rules of the system and how can we make clear that these need to be respected, while at the same time we are listening to criticism that may be useful or may be correct. So if I'm making a mistake and a student criticizes me, I may not like it, but if the criticism is correct and it is also in a respectful form, I hope that I can be grateful, even if I don't like it because it doesn't feel well. But this is, I think, what we need to communicate. So how does healthy metal look like? How does healthy tree look like? So the idea of we are being together here, how can we discuss together with our staff, but also with students? How can we balance the idea of being together, being in a group, being apart, with the idea of being an individual? So what are the rights of an individual and what are the rights of a group? So this is one of the old philosophical tensions we are facing, and I think it's worthwhile to discuss this again and again. So this is one part of the answer. And the second part that I didn't write here is we have seen that, and maybe you see this also in families, that let's say the father is the good cop. So the father is very permissive and the child is allowed to do all kinds of things. But the mother then needs to be the bad cop. So somebody needs to remind the child of the rules. Or sometimes it's vice versa, that the mother is the good cop and the father needs to be the bad cop. So, and I hope that we can let go of this game of good cop, bad cop, but rather that we have together a same understanding, a similar understanding. Because if only one person tries to adhere to rules and enforce respect, while the other person says, well, it's not so strict, let's be friends together, then it's difficult. So how can we have a similar understanding, a collective picture of how to handle this metal and tree thing? The second thing that I wrote down is East-West. At least in my visits, I was a bit concerned. I hope that I'm not impolite, but I was a bit concerned that some people tried to become like the West. And I would recommend that you don't try. So maybe you just want to take in what is working well in the West, but you do not take the developments that are really unhealthy that we need to get rid of, while you're trying to incorporate them in your systems. So there are things that I think that we could learn from the East rather than that, and I want to really recommend that you're careful. This also means, I think, that you need to discuss with students what they see daily in the news and in their social media. While in the West, with its so-called values and this individualism and this all kinds of problems that we have here in Instagram and TikTok and other formats, we see that children get weird or that irritated and confused about their gender, about their values, about their body, about whether they should stay alive or they should commit suicide, and all kinds of weird things. And so this is nothing that we can dismiss. It rather needs a lot of dialogue and listening, not just teaching, but really listening their tensions and their concerns. The third thing is you see that I wrote down contract. So normally when I'm going to a shop and I buy something, let's say I buy, I don't know, some bread or butter or whatever I'm buying, there, I do not sign my name, right? I just pay the money and then I get the object. But a school is something quite different. And so we need some kind of contract. And the contract is not only about money, but it's also about behavior and commitment. And on the one hand, we need, as I shared before, we need to have parents as part of the contract so that they really see what are my duties, again and again, not just the money, but so how to support children, that they are punctual, that they have the material they need, that we're talking about diligence, that we're discussing about values, etc., etc. But also we need to have a contract with the student. And again, I support schools to write down what are my duties as a student, and not only to be punctual and to be there and to be, I don't know, alert, but also how to contribute, how to listen to the teachers, how to speak out when there is something wrong or when I have a problem or a need. So it's kind of being there and contributing. And again, these contracts are of course difficult to put together. And at the first part, the new students are like, what are you trying to say? Or what do you want from me with this contract? But if we stay there and if we clarify what it is about, and this is something that we do together, and you are not only a customer, but a client. So a client that needs to be part of it. And you're kind of maybe you've heard this term, to be a prosumer. To be a prosumer, not a consumer, but a prosumer. The prosumer means, and I'm contributing. I'm sharing something and I'm making the whole better. So students need to be prosumers as well as parents. and this is hard work. My last comment is, of course, the loud students who are complaining or who are noisy, who are destructive, they're really a problem. But let's not forget the silent ones. I've seen silent students who have been silent for years and then commit suicide, for example, and nobody was aware that there was a problem. So while we need to talk and take care of the loud ones, not forget about the silent ones. And at least in Austria, very often these are the female students. So the male students are very often loud, while the female students are, most of them, if they're problematic, are silent. They're having, for example, eating disorders and other body problems. They're hurting themselves, etc. Quite some difficult issues. Hopefully you do not have this that much in Nepal, but at least we have these problems quite a lot, and many of them are really silent. So let's also see the silent ones. Yes, thank you. I hope it was not off mark. Maybe Manos, you want to correct or enlarge from your experience.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's great for me. I got this idea concretely. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for participating. We are just moving forward to the program. We want some program reflection or takeaway. We want to get program reflection from Amuna Pangeni ma'am from Kathmandu University. She is ready to quench our thirst of queries through her words. She will give reflection toward the program. Amuna ma'am, please.
Thank you, Mr. Modraz Pandey, sir. And first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Von Hartbozet. And I would also like to thank Mr. Randir, though he left us quickly. Despite the cold evening, both sessions were engaging and full of valuable ideas. In the first session, Mr. Poset has discussed about started with comparing school as a human body and questions with what will happen if all bodies are working but not cooperating. We can see a school like a body, each has its duty, but they all depend on each other. He also talked about the problems with bodies and how can we come out with such problems like separateness, arrogance, civil war, disempowering. Likewise, he also explained how important it is to balance all the dialectical thinking like process, relationships, context, and transformations. Lastly, for the culture of collaborations, we can think about the elements, components as a new good life, like metal as a becoming strong, tree becoming part, stone becoming active, and fire becoming free. He also answered a few of the queries from the participants about the issues that we are having around our society and inside our homes. In all that, we must have clear roles and boundaries so that we can deal with such issues and the problems. From the second sessions, Mr. Chanukka, we couldn't hear him well. So overall, these sessions highlighted the importance of working together and having a clear strategy for success. I'm excited to apply these lessons in my own work. Thank you again to speakers and organizers for such a meaningful programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Amuna ma'am. Thank you very much. हामी अब कार्यक्रमको कन्क्लुडिङ तर्फ आइरहेका छौँ. We are at the conclusion of the program. अब म सम्पूर्ण एडिन directors, एडिन life members, and all the participants from distinguished schools, I would like to thank you all for your participants. Yeti bhandai, by saying this much, me Modraz Pandey, I want to say goodbye to you all. Before that, I would like to invite Edin Director Mr. Netra Neupane for concluding speech. Netra sir, please.
Respected all. Sir, ठीक sir?
Yes, sir.
Respected all, on behalf of our organization EDIN, Educational Development Initiative Nepal, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to all of you, especially our guests, speaker mentors, Bernard Pochard from Austria and Randir Chanuka Pereira from Sri Lanka, and some school leaders, principals, directors, and in charge also for making today's educational program talk a success. Our distinguished guests, mentors, your presence and insight have enriched this program immensely. Your expertise and the contribution have inspired us and provided valuable guidance for our journey as a school leaders. Our esteemed participants, school leaders, and other valuable guests, I have seen here Professor Dr. Jayant Acharya sir, Sri Lankaबाट नेपालको लागि राजदूत, His Excellency Ambassador to Nepal from Sri Lanka, Dr. Y. Delian Nave, आदरणीय गीता म्याम, नेसनल प्याप्सनको पूर्व अध्यक्ष हुनुहुन्छ, ऋतुराज सापकोटालाई पनि मैले देखेको छु, आदरणीय सर पनि नेसनल प्याप्सनको पूर्व अध्यक्ष नै हुनुहुन्छ, पोखराबाट जोडिनु भएका आदरणीय सर म्याडमहरू, रूपन्देहीबाट पनि उदय मल्लिक सर लगायतका सर म्याडमहरू जोडिनु भएको छ, सम्पूर्ण उपस्थित सर म्याडमहरू प्रति इडिन टिम हार्दिक कृतज्ञता प्रकट गर्न चाहन्छ। Your active participation, thoughtful queries, and enthusiasm have made this event dynamic and impactful. Finally, we have explored meaningful ideas and shared strategy that will empower us to lead more effectively and foster excellence in our schools. Thank you once again for being a part of this program. We look forward to continuing such program and growing together. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye. Namaste, namaskar.
Bye-bye. Namaste. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Namaste.
Bye, sir. Good night, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you, Bernard.
Good to see you, Prakash.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, Balaram.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good to see you again, Udaya.